We're going with a slow start. So my surprise is that we are going to work on this card today. There it is. Hi, Mary R. We're going to work on this one today. It was part of the box 5 extra card example or inspiration card, but we gave you guys the extra pieces to it. And I had said that I would do a Margie Makes on it. Well, it made more sense for me just to do it live for you guys. So if you happen to have your kit 5 handy and you'd like to grab this portion of the kit that's there, you can grab it and we will go ahead and go through it. If you don't have it, then you can take a peek and see what this is like, and we'll go from there. Okay. I'm not going to start right away. I'm going to have other people join us, so I will be repeating this a couple of times, so bear with me. Today we're going to talk about different ways that you can embellish things using the tools that you have around you. The bike one is one, and then this one is our other one from our peony. And it's truly going through and showing you how to do that. So those are our 2 cards for today. If you have your Peony Promise little book, I encourage you to grab it and grab any Nuvo Drops that you have. Hi, Stephanie. So if you have some of those things, you are more than welcome to grab them. And if you don't have those things, then you might try to take a look and see if you can pick some of them up. So, excuse me. So I want to kind of show you the different items that I'm bringing in so that if you do want to grab the different things, you can. So specifically, I have all of these Nuvo Drops. Now, some are crystal, some are jewel, some are glitter. And people don't think about it, but you can literally run one right over the top. You can also, it will give it a different dynamic. And each one of these does something different. So I thought that I would grab a few of the different kinds that we have. Or I should say that I have. And by the way, I have these little white wonderful containers. I have 7 of these filled with the Nuvo Drops. 7 of these filled with my Nuvo Drops. So I bought a Nuvo stand like Debbie's. It's pretty nice, but I have to have more than one stand. So, and for traveling back and forth, these are a great way to go. But most of my Nuvo Drops are packed right now because my craft room is all dug out for us to start doing the Nuvo, to start doing my craft room area. Mary, this one here is called the Crystal Drops, and it is a little bit less see-through. You'll have more color that sits on top. And the Crystal Drops, we have various different ones right now. I think out of the last couple packs that went through, I think we have, this was one of them. This one is the bottle green. I know that we ended up having this one in with the other blues and green colors that were part of that original pack from a couple of months ago. So hopefully you guys have some of those handy. I had a beautiful peach colored crystal that I meant to grab, not crystal, but glitter that I meant to grab, and I didn't grab it. So either that or it's somewhere in my goodies and I just didn't see it. So these are the different kind of Nuvo Drops we'll be working with today. And I want to show you the differences between that and some of the other items that are out there on the market that we have in stock, and show you, because some of them are the same types of things that you would have used in the past. Hi, Mary G. So we will be using Nuvo Drops, our embossing inking pad, and our Nuvo gold powder. Boop, right there. Sorry, wrong place. Our gold. You can truly use silver, whatever color you want really for this. You could use, Nuvo has tons of different colors. So there's yellow and there's, I have a lilac one, and then there's this gold, and there's lots of different ones. And I found that I played with a lot of the other ones when I was making cards, working with the different embossing powders. And I found that the Nuvo seems to have the crispest and cleanest, which is really important when you're doing stamping. And since this is our stamping and extra goodies class, I figured maybe this would be a good place to use it. But I personally tend to lean towards that. Let's see here. So I think timeline wise, I have no idea what time it is. It is 4:07. 4:07. Okay, guys. So it's going to be me here in just a few minutes. Bryce was kind enough to help me turn this on and get it going because it's a little bit harder to do from my side of things unless I have the computer in front of me to touch buttons at the same time. And then I'm not paying good attention to everything else. So, with the different things that we have, why don't we go ahead and get started? And my thought is to go ahead and do the bike card first. This one that we have from our box 5 kit, it was an extra treat that we sent in so that you could do the inspiration card, but I also promised you that I would make sure that we had it and that we did it as a Margie makes. So that's the one that we're doing. Boop. Okay. So what you will need from that kit specifically for this card is, there we go, is the bike die and the balloon dies. If you remember right, I went last time around, I could not find my balloon dies, and they were nice and packed away in some of my items, and I had forgotten to not pack them when I was packing everything up to do the renovation of the room. We'll need the stamp portion as well, specifically this little guy right here, the little flowers. And in your kit, you will have gotten a glitter green ribbon. And these kind of varied in colors. Each person got different colors. So there's some purples and some pink colors in there. And you can decide which ones you want to use out of your packs, or you might have some. I know that we send you guys a lot of these in our kits, which is great. So you may find that you have a color that you like better than others. Okay, you'll need a DL card. These are the hunky-dory ones that we sent you. You'll need a piece of your seafoam green that was sent. You'll need your acetate. And you'll need your piece of silver Miri. And we sent you a long piece of this. And part of it was used for making clouds in the ducky card. And then the rest is used for this card. So that's what we have. And I think we're ready to go. Alrighty. Thank you, Bryce. Everybody say thank you, Bryce. Bye. Bye. Okay. You also will need a little bit of some other color of Miri just to go on top of the balloons. You could make them just all gold or all, you can make them all gold or all silver on the outside, but it's totally up to you and what you want to do. I'm just going to steal some of my fuchsia one from the peony part that I'm going to be using. So yeah, it was really nice because I thought, how am I going to get to the point where I can turn everything on and be able to do what I need to do? I'm going to try and remember to look at the notes on the side, but if I forget, I am so very sorry. Okay. So first things first, you're going to take and you're going to put this on your DL card, and it should fit quite nicely with a little bit of extra to clip. I believe that I gave you enough to do that. Now I found that with this material, it seemed to not like the tape as well, and it's because it's an embossed cotton paper, and so it can pop off of, because I tried it a couple of different ways, and in this one example I went ahead and I used the tape instead of glue, and on the duck one I used the glue. And when I pulled this out of my little storage area of cards, it had moved away, and some of the tape wasn't holding as well to it. So just an FYI, you'll probably want to use glue and not finger lift tape or double stick tape for that. So in this particular case, in order to make sure that I get a good adhesion, I'm just going to run and watch. I'm going to be all plugged again. I'm just going to run some of this little glue on it. The other glue that would work would be the Nuvo sticky pin, where you can, sorry guys, where you can pull it, out, put some on the paper, some on the card, and let them dry and adhere them together, kind of like rubber cement. It's the best way to get a good tack down, and so that would be a great way to make that work. But I'm just going to go over the edges. Nope, I'm still stuck. Your best glue ever, if you don't have a glue pin, Nuvo pin, you can also use best glue ever for doing this, because you put it on both sides, but then you really have to make sure that it dries. And note to self, use a bigger bottle of glue. Okay. So here we go. It's just like any other card that we do, where we take them and put them together, flip them on up. I try and remember that I know that we have our followers that we have all the time, but I also want to make sure that if you're somebody that is new to this and new to card making, that we talk about those old hints every once in a while, just to make sure that you aren't getting we're not jumping in and diving into the deep end without giving you a little bit of a life jacket there. So hopefully this information will help. And because of the glue and the paper adhering together, I want to mush it around as much as possible. Mush, because that's a very specific technical term for in our crafting. Smush. And I will do my best to cut as nicely as I can. I will tell you right now, I do not cut straight most of the time, and I really don't cut straight when I'm doing classes, because I'm already nervous. You would think I would be starting to feel okay, but nah, not yet. Okay, so we have our base. Isn't that pretty? Look at how those flowers just bounce and turn. The shininess just comes off of the paper. It almost looks like a pearlescent metallic light blue. So if you haven't seen this paper before, and apparently I'm using a whole bunch of Nuvo things because this is also the Craft Perfect Nuvo cotton papers. So I used to bug Debbie, hey Debbie, we should get some Nuvo. We should get some Nuvo. And now we have gotten quite a bit of Nuvo. So I'm glad and I'm happy that that has happened. Otherwise, I wouldn't have as much fun with this. Okay, so we need some of our 6x6. Nope, 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 nope. Bear with me. I need to go get a different piece of paper because I need something a little bit bigger than this for our water paper. So I have a 6x6 and I think that I need an 8x8. So let me grab that really quick. You know what? I think the easiest way to do this is just grab one of my DL cards, because Hunky Dory's DL cards you can ink on. If you didn't know that, you can ink directly onto any of their card bases and they will do a beautiful job because of how thick the paper is and how absorbent it is. It does wonderful things. So I am going to cut the back off here really quick. And then we'll go with the actual shape here. So the rectangle itself is 3 5/8 long. That's where you're going to make your long cut, and it is 3 5/8. Short and long is going to be, sorry, I said that wrong. Width 3 5/8. Long is 7 3/4. So cut that really quick here. We want to have enough space in order to do our bike, because that bike with the balloons, nope, I went the right way. The bike with the balloons takes up an immense amount of space on the card itself. So we want to definitely give it as much as we can, but we really want to see that border. So I believe that I did a quarter border all the way around. Yeah, this one's a little bit thinner, if you can see that. What do you think? Thicker border like this or thinner border? What do you guys think? And while you guys are thinking, I realized that I forgot something, so I need to grab it really quick out of my pack of items. I don't think I've put any of my ink pads on together. So let's Debbie's always got some handy stuff in here in her kit. Her Apollo kit is one very smart thing to do. Okay, so I have a request for the thinner. So we'll do that then. Okay, so we need to do a couple of things with our background paper before we can set this one aside. And we have a couple things that we need to do. So the first thing that I like to do is kind of have a really clear idea of how much I need in what spaces. So for this particular card, you'll notice that there is some ribbon at the very bottom. I don't want to attach that yet because it goes up. It right above that is some alcohol marker, and I don't want that to blend in my ribbon, but I do need to know where I need to start. So if you just kind of lay your ribbon out, and I have alcohol markers from Spectrum Noir. Prism has them as well. It just happens to be that mine is Spectrum Noir. And we have some Spectrum Noir still in the store, but not as much as we have of Prism, because the Prisms are a little bit more cost friendly. And so now that I know approximately where that is, I've just made a little tiny bit of grass there on the side. And now I can take my extra little guy and just put him right across the bottom. And then we know where our, actually, let me do it one more time. Upside down makes it a little bit harder to remember. It's amazing how you need to do the various different steps in the right order, because if you don't, you will not like the cause and effect of it as much. So I can now take and line up my little guys right like that. And I know that I can go anywhere along this paper from just a little bit further down to a little bit further up right along in here. So I put it down a little bit further than the actual green part is. And let me see, because each one of these is a little different in color. Yeah, those are my dark ones. Okay. So I'm going to go through, and first off, I'm just going to take some light green, and you're going to hash mark it back and forth and a little bit of ups and downs. And the more that you can keep them a little separated, the better in your lines, because then it will fill in and look more like grass. So grass goes both directions, so we have to give it that line delineation, but also that hash mark that's going to give it the idea that it's going back and forth and it has some movement. And I grabbed Debbie's Spectrum Noir pens, and I can't remember what the number was that I used before. So this will look a little bit different in color, but it is the exact same process. And as it dries, you'll find that it will lighten up quite a bit too. That's something that's really tricky about alcohol markers that I didn't know right away. I had no idea that they lightened up as much as they did. And I also hadn't done a lot of playing around with a lot of the different types of tools that were used for crafting prior to getting to know Debbie. My crafts were on a larger scale. I did a lot of refurbishing furniture and making them farmhouse styles with the different writing and things on them. And so my tools looked a lot more, well, it was larger scale tools, and and things like this wouldn't have really worked on pieces of furniture, or would work on my plaques. So I used to make plaques and signs as well, and I still do when somebody wants one. And so I'm just going back over and giving it some tufts of darker green as well. Because grass is not all one color either. It may be the exact same kind of grass, but I will tell you right now, it is not. And on the subject of grass, my entire backyard is a big, huge dust bowl right now because we are going to have sod laying as soon as it gets a little bit cooler at the beginning of next week. So hopefully that will happen sooner than later because my dogs are looking a little bit worse for wear. Okay, so here is our paper so far with our grass on it. And the one thing that you need to know about putting tape on the back of ribbon. So I want it to go all the way across. I don't want any movement, so I am going to put it all the way across the back. But how do you know what's too much and what's too little? So I looked at my nice big craft style one. I'm really liking their tape because I can reposition it, but within about 2 hours, it sticks and it sticks well. So I do like that. And so I just ran it across the back and then I peel it up to see, okay, where am I at? And in this particular case, this fatter ribbon was perfect because I know you can't see it quite. I can try bringing it a little bit closer. You can see how it fits right in between those silver lines. So I'm not giving it too much and I'm not giving it too little because you don't want the sticky all the way around the edges of you don't want sticky here, sticky down here. So your piece of ribbon was made. If you want to save some of it, you can, but we gave you a little bit extra. And it was made to go all the way across and you wouldn't have to worry about it. So it depends on if you want to try and salvage a little tiny piece, but in general, you can just do the whole thing if you wanted to. So in this case, I'm going to do just that. And something else about ribbon when you put it along the back, for something like this, you may find that if you don't use more, less is more typically, but if in this particular case, if you don't use more, you may find that you're struggling a little bit with where the bumps start to show up down there. So by putting it a little bit further on the back, you're a little bit more likely not to notice those bumps. And where we are on the paper on the back side of it is where we're going to put our bike, really. That's blank. And so it's pretty much perfect. You shouldn't notice any bumps or unevenness when you put this on. So that's our first little bit. Now we are going to take and all right, I have an Arctic Mist and I have a Periwinkle in a shimmer color. So I've got those two, and I know that your Arctic Mist would have come in your very first stamping kit from Prism. So I do know that that's there and that you guys have it. So I'm going to go ahead and use some of it. And my goal is just to give it a little bit of color. And I should have used a dauber because that's really deep now. But it's not everywhere. I didn't intend for it to just stick in one place. And I know that this last week, Debbie did Shimmer Prism with you guys. And so I'm going to go in and I'm going to do a little bit in the shimmer. And because these are watercolor, this is the Periwinkle, it's dark too. But because this is a watercolor ink base, you can truly just go through and use a little bit of water and I use the swirl marks to kind of give it more of a cloud effect. But if some of it is darker than you want it to be, and not lighter, then it is just fine to go through and take a little bit of water, even a little bit of a baby wipe, and you can actually pull up some of this color. So if you decide that this is not what you were hoping for color, I'm gonna stick with what I've got. That's quite a bit of color in comparison to the other one. But I think that it will still look very nice. But if you, for some reason, want to, you can go through and even a baby wipe will pull some of it up. In fact, since I need it for my fingers anyways, let's just do just that and play with it a little bit, see what we end up with. Okay, so here's kind of a deeper line. And here's a little bit of a deeper line. What I like about the shimmers is it really gives it almost like you've done a little bit of overspray with a pearlescent. And it looks darker for a little bit, but if you give it a little while, it will just blend into the paper and absorb through the paper a little bit, and it will lighten right up. It's almost like you can see where I've taken off the actual color. So it's a neat, fun little trick that I use. You can also just take a wet paper towel and dab it on here and there, and it will do the same thing. So we are now ready with our background to just go ahead and place it right on this. And we're going to go through and do the exact same thing with glue. However, I think I'm going to grab my Nuvo pen just so that it goes a little bit faster than the little bottle. Or I lied. I'm going to borrow Debbie's because mine did not make it into the bag. Yay! Hi, Andrea. How are you? Okay. I was going to show you the one that I have at home before I even knew that they came out with such a big stick like this. I have one that's the medium size, and so I was going to use that for today because it is very helpful when we're making the little flowers and the balloons. But I did not remember, so that would be shame on me. And you can use as much of this as you would like. And in fact, what's really neat about this is that just the more that you use, the better adhesion it gets. So I literally will squeeze it and push down a little drop and then just leave it. And in this particular case, I know that I had said to do your glue for the embossing paper. If you do two sides with the Nuvo pen, but in this particular case, I'm just going to leave it with the one because it's going to be really hard for me to get that Nuvo pen on the front side. On the back side, it would be a little bit easier. And then we're going to move it on through. It may require that I go ahead and do it on the embossing paper too. Yep. Okay. I'll just leave that set for a little bit. And since we knew that we made a thinner line, that'll be good. And just remember that if for some reason you get it a little over sticky, you can always use your embossing powder pad, not embossing powder, but yes, embossing powder, using your embossing pillow, I should say, to get that extra stick off if for some reason, because it gets sticky pretty easy. And so for me, what happens if I got a little bit on my finger and then I've touched my paper? Well, then that means that I have to turn around and get the stick off. And the best way to get the stick off is just dabbing it with a little bit of that powder. And I did not glue the back of my ribbon because it just will not work with ribbon very well. So I'll have to come in here and glue these areas right back here for the ribbon. And that will need glue. So if I do not remember, remind me to glue that here after it's had a chance to sit. I am good, Andrea. I am in the midst of juggling a lot of plates right now. I've got a lot going on because we had to postpone due to my surgery. We had to postpone a whole bunch of stuff that I started back in May that I haven't been able to finish. So I'm now starting to feel a little bit better, and that has been nice. Okay, so I put on my clouds before I put on my bike. And the reason why is because your clouds will be in the background. I mean, that's kind of like a no-brainer, but at the same time, sometimes you have to stop and think about, how am I going to place this, or what am I going to make it look like? So, so by putting your clouds on, your bike will still be in the forefront of everything. So you just go through, and I'm going to tell you, we did this with the ducks, and you will find that you can lay on some and then lay on more, and you can just keep going, and it will just, you don't have a right or a wrong to your patterns. You can just kind of keep piling them one on top of the other. Actually, I think I'm going to go over here with this one and put that behind it here like that. So it's right there in the corner. And when you line them up like this, it's amazing at how quickly they will blend all together when you glue them on. So right now, you may see all those little lines, but as soon as you glue this on, you will be amazed at how it will look different. In fact, for that matter, I think I'm going to do that way. And then I think I'm going to take a little bit from this area. Put one up here. And then I think we'll just go with a couple of little puffs here and there. One little puff. And then add those puffs to it, and it will blend better if you just kind of wiggle the bottom as well. Hopefully I wasn't doing that off camera, because you definitely want them to blend with movement. You don't want it to end up being a straight line, unless in this case I knew that I was putting it right here against the paper. And this one, when I did this one out here, I literally just went through and I took my scraps, and because it's cotton paper, it just will tear and fluff out, and you can then start building that up into more layers if you want. So if you want it a little bit bigger. And why am I doing this? Well, because I have the paper, and who could just throw away this pretty paper? Not me. I'm not very good at that. I gotta save them up, keep them for when I need them again, even if it's just little pieces. Although I will go crazy if I keep little pieces and I know I'm not going to use them again. So I really only do this with my special papers, or I'm doing it while I'm using it. So use it up when you got it, and then you don't have to worry about, oh man, I'm throwing away this paper. Well, out of that entire piece that we gave you, you will have this much left over if you just go through and do what I did. And it gives it more of a dimension so that it actually does look like a cloud. Well, thank you, Andrea. It's really tough for me, guys, to do the whole camera thing. I have to be really honest. I've put off my parents for years to do Zoom until my grandbabies were born, and we had COVID. So because they couldn't see them, we wanted to make sure that they knew well, of course, Emma knew who her grandparents were, but with Lily, it was new. And so you don't get to go out and meet your family. We would go through and self-quarantine the entire family for several, and my bottle just keeps plugging up. We would quarantine for 3 weeks, and my parents would quarantine for 3 weeks, and then we would go down and spend one afternoon with them. But it was doable for our family, so why not? Other families, it wasn't as doable for to do that, so they had to hold off. But we didn't do it very frequently, and we did it wisely, if that makes sense. We met outside, so when the weather started getting worse and it didn't feel like an end was in sight, I went down and I bought my parents a Alexa show. Of course, I just said that name.
I'm having trouble.
There we go.
Try in a little while.
You know that lady that sits in your room somewhere? Yeah, that one. We got a show version and we gave it to them. And I am just now getting used to that idea of, I do not know why this is plugged because it's not showing that it should be plugged. But man, it's been hard to get it out. Anyways, so we would do the show that way. And it's really hard for me, but I will do it, and I enjoy sharing. And so just because I don't see you in the classroom, I have no problem teaching live classes. So I just don't look at the camera, and that makes it a lot easier for me not to remember that that's where I'm at. If I don't look at the TV screen in that corner, all right, guys, I'm getting a different bottle. This is bad. It is very plausible that my glue has gotten too thick. Just sitting in the bottle for a while now. So let's take Debbie's and we'll give it another shot. Oh, look at that, just come right straight out. Yep, I had put tattered lace glue in mine, and it's a little bit of a thicker glue, but man, it makes it a lot harder to move through those bottles. So it really does matter what glues you use, and the Cosmic Shimmer works in these glue bottles so well, and that's what Debbie has used for most of her glue bottles most of the time. And so when I found out that that was the case, I started using the Nuvo, or not the Nuvo, but the Cosmic Shimmer, and So half of my bottles still have the tattered lace in them, and I'm sure that that's what happened, because man, that is so much easier. Okay, so by doing it this way, you can really get that 3D effect, give it that little bit of puffiness. I just really love this paper, and I love using it for clouds, but you could do it, as you can see, you can do it for backgrounds, and you can do it for lots of different things. Your layering, you name it. Now watch, I'm going to have too much on it. And hi Stephanie, if I didn't say hello to you earlier, I apologize. Like I was telling people when we first started, if you have your box 5 kit that you purchased and you bought the kit that includes not just the box and stamps and the papers, but you bought the kit itself, you will have gotten all the items that you will need to make this. I think I'm jinxing the bottles. Okay. Whoop, there it goes. Okay. Um, if if you have your kit from that, it included all the things that you needed in order to make your inspiration card. So if you have that, you can make this card. And if you didn't buy that, but you have the box 5 kit at home from Monkey Dory, you can turn around and we have the craft paper with the blue. It's Nuvo's Craft Perfect paper in the cotton embossing. And I can't remember what the exact name of this one is. I apologize. But it sure is pretty. And you can buy some of that and buy some of our glitter ribbon, or find some of your glitter ribbon from one of your previous kits, because there's always a little bit extra to be used. And you can make this card with your box 5 Hunky Dory kit. Okay. Whoop. Alrighty there. There we go. All right, so now we have our clouds, and now it's just time to go through and put on our bike. All right, now the bike has its own unique things that are happening. You're going to want to run your die cutter 4 different times for this bike, I think. Let's wait and find out. Actually, yeah, 4 different times. So first we run it through for the silver, and that's our base. And the silver one, you just put the whole thing, glue it on, put it halfway on your ribbon portion, and the other half. And you just need to make sure that you get it far enough down here, because those balloons have to have a place to fly to. So anywhere along in this area, you can go down here so it looks like they're more on the path, or you can go up here just a little bit if you like. So it's really your choice and where you want to put that. Okay, so I'm going to just go ahead and glue this one on, because we're just going to continue to go through. If you're working along, since we have to run the bike 4 times, I decided I really didn't feel like you needed to sit and watch me do it 4 times. However, we do have to do the other 3 because it's important. I guess I could have probably have run them through the die cutting machine and then just talked about how to handle it once it's done. But this gives me an opportunity to give you a little trick that I found with these. Make sure that you get all of your little edges. You don't have to clean out your you don't have to clean out or push or change up your basket. If you look in your basket, there's some things that you have in there that need a little bit of a hole punching. There's some, normally you would rib it up a little bit. And if you get, and the glue is smudgy on the outside of the mirror, it's okay. Just grab that handy dandy and wipe off any of your excess, but do it now, not later, because it's easy to get off now, but not so much later. So how do we go from a silver bike? How do we go from a silver bike to where this green bike is? And we have a couple of different things that we're doing with it. So the first thing is we're going to take our sea foam, and I have all these goodies somewhere. There it is. We're going to go through and we're going to run the bike on our embossing and cutting machine. And I love my electronic. The Cut and Go Pro is a wonderful thing through Ultimate Crafts. I really like it. My hands hurt. My hands hurt all the time. I don't have the opportunity sometimes to do things because my hands hurt. And I found that the Cut and Go Pro, even though it's handheld, it moves really smoothly and it doesn't hurt for me to use, which is pretty great. All right, hunky dory. I have found with their box kits, in their regular moonstone dies, they have the little holes for you to push out. But I found that for some of their box kit ones, they don't necessarily have a hole. So how do you do it without ruining your die? Because to get it out, because if you put something pokey in there, then what will happen is that it will scratch your die. And you don't want to scratch your die because then that scratch pushes right into the mirror on your next set of papers. So what I found is that if you take and pull it like how I just had it, and I'll show you again one more time when I do the next one, you take and you just kind of push on the inside of it, it will start to pop out. And then you can lift it with the tweezers. But then you've got all of this to clean out. I don't know if you can see it well or not. There we go. You have all of this. Oh, it's really fuzzy now all of a sudden. There we go. You have all of those white little pieces in there, and we have no holes to punch them out with. So what do we do? Well, typically I go ahead and I run it a couple more times just because. But for this, I'm going to do each one separately. So you just take your tweezers and you push on. Sorry guys, let me try and see if I can telescope this in a little bit, and because it's hard to see otherwise. Nope, too far back. Perfect. Okay. So you're just going to take and you're going to push on the back and it will slide out. Do not push so hard straight down. If you notice, I'm taking it at an angle and I'm just pushing it in the direction that it will loosen it. You can't try and push it here against this rim. Oh, look, that one was loose. If you push it against the rim, sometimes you'll get where they just won't do what you want them to do. It will fight you. So if it's got an open space, I try and move towards it like that. So if you ever have a problem with your dies in regards to that, I really appreciate that when they have those little holes, because man, it makes life a whole bunch easier, doesn't it? But I also recognize that this is a box kit, and box kits, they have to be cost effective. So if they put holes in everything and they made them fancy like the moonstone ones, then they'd have to just sell them as a moonstone, which is a lot nicer, but a lot more expensive. So I think I like the idea that the magazine box collections are still reasonably priced. Okay, so this is my seafoam green one that I just cut out. And I will say that I haven't done this for a little while, so I don't remember exactly where I cut it. So bear with me because hopefully I can remember where I cut them. So if you see on here, on this one, boop, this way. Okay, if you see on here, this is green and then it runs up and over. But this part that is green, I've colored on there with an alcohol marker so that it looks like the bike. And then I just dotted it with a Sharpie and then colored my silver wheels and my pedal black with the Sharpie pen. So this part is not on there. However, this part of the rim and this part of the bike now all goes on top. So you cut this piece and you cut out the basket area. You don't have to. In fact, you can glue that straight on if you want to. In fact, let's do it that way. I think it may end up being a little bit better. So I come through here and hopefully I can remember. Okay, so I cut into the rim. I don't want the wheel, so I'm just cutting right above the wheel line approximately. And I'm cutting right to there. Okay. And then the next place that I'm cutting it is right here and right here. So now I have this piece so far that I've cut out the section of. So basically what I'm cutting out is the wheel shape. Yes, I can figure out how this works. Okay, the wheel shape and the little bike pedal. And this is a really neat bike. I agree. I love little bikes, and this one reminds me of when I was little. Now this has a green hubcap on it, so you could take and very carefully cut out your little sliver for that hubcap and cut off this other section of the wheel. Anything more than that and you'll miss it. I didn't cut the hubcap in the last one. I left the hubcap on this one silver, but it wasn't on purpose. I just wasn't paying attention. See that hubcap right there is silver. So that was me just not noticing. I did, however, cut the handlebars off right here. And I know you're going to think that that's really silly of me because it seems like it's going to just go right back on. But I cut the little handlebars off. And the reason for doing that is because I wanted that silver to shine through on the bike. So you're going to just cut them off right at the handles. This would be a neat time to use your little snips, but it cuts as well with regular scissors too. You don't need little snips, but don't lose those two handle pieces. So what I do first off over anything else is I take them and I put them where I know I'm going to see them. And right now, this is a good place to see them. And the first thing that I do is glue those, and I do it right now because I do not want to lose those and have to run an entire die all over again for two little tiny handles. And you're just going to apply them right on there. So now you've got a great little handle. Nope, come on, don't do that. Got a nice little colored handlebar. At least when I was growing up, I had little colored handlebars on the top of my bike in rubber. It wasn't silicone. That didn't exist then, but it was, they always had those little squishy little pieces on it, and I loved that about them. So I put them on mine. You don't have to. You can make this simple for yourself, or you can do it this way. This one's a little bit more detailed. Oh, and I forgot. You want to cut off your bike seat right there. And then all the rest of this is just a matter of gluing it and gluing it on. So I have not had a chance to look at all the work that Debbie has done, but it sounds like she did a whole bunch of listing, and it sounds like the rest of the Hunky Dory order came in. And how exciting is that? So I know what was coming, but I haven't had a chance to look at it close up. But it will be so neat. Part of the reason why I left the bike, the basket, excuse me, not the bike, but the basket. Part of the reason why I did that was because I had originally cut out the little sprigs and put them on the basket, but that just seems silly. You can put the whole basket on because we're just going to cover it up with our next layer anyways. I think I got glue in a few places. Yes, I did. Okay. That is my phone going off. It's pretty quiet, so hopefully it's not going to be too loud for anyone. Okay, so with this piece, I then went through, and I just took some leftover of my white paper from the DL card. Now, if I can find it, which I probably can't quickly. But I just went through and I colored the seat color with just, I used alcohol markers for that, but you can use your watercolors, anything that you really want to do, regular pens, gel pens, whatever you have handy that you would like to make the color of the seat, that is just colored on the paper. The same thing with these flowers, and we'll get there, but this is our last part, and we need to do the little basket underneath first, which I believe that I used, actually, I think that I used watercolor pencils for both the basket and the seat. So I'm going to grab some really quick here, and we'll do that. I did not use the water part of the pen. I just used it for what I had. So let's see, baskets. Those look like basket colors. So we'll have some of those. Let me pull this back out for you so that I've got a little bit more space for you to see what I'm working on. So there's our basket, and maybe I'll do the seat in just kind of a, how about pink? Why not? Let's do this purplish pink. They all go together, right? Save out those watercolors for a little bit later too, because you will need them for your flowers. Okay, so I just went through and I found where on this bike these areas were going to be. So I just made a really quick little jaunt around my die so that I knew where it was going to be at. And I know that the wheel is here and the wheel is here. And I know that my bike seat is there. So I literally went through and let's color the bike seat really quick. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to stay in the lines, because keep in mind you're going to cut them off. Okay. And then I can see where the flowers are, and I can look at the bike that I have in front of me too. So I can see where all the flowers and the twigs and stuff are. So really the basket is going to be sitting right about here across at the most. And I know that all this is flowers. So I went through, and you just start with your pen, just up and down, just like that. And then you go back through and you make your hash marks. This is just so difficult, guys. Obviously not too difficult. And then I went back through the hash marks in the different colors. So now I need to do I have my lines this way, but not this way for this color. Okay, so yep, it just looks like a funny little pieces on there, but I promise you it will come together so well. So you just want to line up your die back up so that you know that you've gotten it, right? You know you've gotten it if you can line back up your pieces like that. And in this particular case, I think I want to put a little bit of tape on them before I run it through, because I don't want it to move. I don't always put tape on my pieces if I just have one piece going through. But in this particular case, it's going to matter. So I don't want it to move. Doesn't take much. just put it on in. Up we go in the machine. And oh look, we have a whole white bike again in our little thing. But that's okay, because we've got stuff to get it out with. So again, I'm wanting, in this particular case, it doesn't matter because I just want the seat and this, but in order to make it so that you can see it, see how I just kind of go up and through and lift a little bit. It doesn't make its way all the way through. In this particular case, it did because I pushed it a little too hard, too fast. Okay, so now, isn't that beautiful? Not really, but it's amazing what it does when you do these things to it. So we are going to cut out the basket part. You don't need all of it out. Keep in mind we've got the hubcap underneath. So you're just going to go through, put it right in there. And you can see where flowers are supposed to match in with this. Oh, I didn't follow my tip because it's important. Don't lose these little guys. Glue them first. Otherwise, you'll be looking for days. So another thing you can do, guys, is that if you don't want the chrome look, you don't care about that, and you just want to do a bike, that's okay too. You can just run it in white and you can totally just color everything to what you prefer, and it will come right along for you and you will like it as well. So there's really not a right or wrong way of doing it. Well, I've got it here before I do the flowers. I'm going to just come in here. And like I said, I put alcohol ink right in this area. And it figures, feels like this one, it's been there a little while. Some of these alcohol markers have definitely been hanging out. Well, I promise you, when you use these with Nuvo markers, it should color your item. I think this one is, yeah, this one's got some goodies to it. So if you think about it, little bikes have that color mark right there at the end. And look, see how closely it came to the actual, just got to find the right alcohol marker. You could run through it again and cut out that little tiny section, but I wanted it to sit smoothly. And if I cut it out in green and I cover it, then you can't color the little wheel marks and things like that with your chain and pieces, because then it's just not the, if you've got it on green already, you really can't make those marks very well. And I am not going to make them for you because I apparently do not have my black Sharpie handy. And I've already gotten up a few times, so sorry, guys. With this one, you're going to take and you're going to color your wheel right here, black all the way up and around. Leave your spokes silver, and then you literally just take and you dot all the way around front to back because that's where your chain is, and you color your pedal. Same thing here, just right all around where the tire would be in black and leave the rest in silver chrome. And then what I did was I added my little jewel pieces. See those little jewel pieces? You can put those on if you want, but there's no need to if you don't want to. It makes a really cute little bike either direction. But since everybody got those little extra pieces in your pack, I figured I would add them on. So now the last thing to do is flowers. So you're going to take out of your box 5 kit, you're going to take and you are going to choose the flower one right here. And in this particular case, I went ahead and I made the decision that I was going to take and put an idea of where the flowers were going to be right through here. And I then took my paper and made a little outline so that I knew, okay, I want to stick sort of with this concept and idea. You know, our bike comes down and around with some flowers in here. So I just kind of give it a little bit of an overview. And what I did, you're not going to think, you're going to think it is a little crazy. Where is my pink fresh? Here it is. Okay. But what I did was I chose which flowers I wanted. So I held on to this. It's a little bit too big for me to just go through it. So I sat and I looked at what that was going to look like. And this is much wider than that, see? And you would cover up your entire basket if you used this one, for example. So instead, what I did was I went through and I just did one of these sections. And I did it by hand because then I was able to kind of create the space that I wanted it to create. And I just did it with my finger and pushed it on down like that. And then I went through and I thought, okay, well, here's a rose. So maybe I want to put that guy on the front right here. Nope, on the back right here. And it just really gives it the idea of what you're going for your flowers. And you can even turn these ones that are normally a hanging flower, and instead you can put them right side up right here. Okay. So by doing it that way, and you just keep going until you've filled up the spaces. I think we'll put that one right there. And you may go, but it doesn't look very pretty right now. And that's okay because you're going to run it through the die. And the reason why is because this die has little, I call them vents. I don't know what other people call them. Or hi, Annette, how are you doing today? I wanted to go through and with these, with the little vents and dents in them, it allows you to give it a little bit of dimension. And so I wouldn't just stamp and color and cut these out. I would truly put this approximately where you want it to go. Like that. And I would run it through your die cutting machine. And that's how I would do it. Again, you can just go through if you like the idea better. You can absolutely just go through and run that white piece like I did here, and you can color and do your hash marks and do it all in one fell swoop. But I really wanted the dimension, and in fact, my flowers are up on foam squares so that it makes it look like it's actually coming out of the basket, not one dimensional. With the vents, it does give you a little bit of dimension, but I had to play around with these a lot to figure out what I liked the best, how come this would work, but maybe the other one didn't as well. So okay, so now, because I am half blind, I'm going to take my glasses off and I'm going to cut around where the flowers actually are now that I've given it that dimension piece. I can now go through and cut. And if I remember right, some of these pieces are already greens. Yes, so these two I'm going to cut off. I'm going to cut off my handlebars because I don't need them on my handlebars. So that's part of my bike right there, and that's part of my green pieces right there. Now I can go through and cut out any white spaces, and it's okay because with the white spaces that are blank in there, that just means that that's going to be an area that will look like a leaf because it's green. Okay, so then you set it right on. Do I want that much? Do I want a little bit more? Do I want it to be a little bit less? I see where this kind of comes out, and I just want to put that in, I think. And I did mask the other one. Whenever I did a flower, I went through and masked. But you don't have to, because I'm going to show you why I say that here in just a second. Okay. That little guy just does not want to come out. When you go through it and you do this, it then gives it a little bit more green that goes through it in the different spaces. Can you see that? Maybe you can't because I've been working off into my face this whole time. I'm so sorry, guys. Hopefully you could see me. Holler at me. If you just can't see stuff, holler. I will try and remember to look up as much as I can. If you want to see more of the basket, then you can cut up into some of this area and take this big flower out and just have some wisteria hanging down over there. And I think that that is what I'm going to do because I want to see my bike a little more than what I can this way. And maybe I will save my little rose here and decide after I'm done, do I want to add on my rose maybe somewhere else. So I might just put it right up there. So I'm going to go ahead and pull this back. Okay, guys, since I am by myself and I do not have a phone nearby me, what time is it? I want to make sure that I don't go over our time. I was hoping to get to 2, but these are pretty involved steps. So I kind of was hoping that I could get to 2, but we may only be able to talk about the other one and just show a little bit of an example. So yeah, let's get this right there. Alrighty. Okay, we won't be using our bike anymore because we are almost done. And I'm just going to take and put my flowers up on a harder space that's smooth. I find that when you color with your colored pencils on the table, even though it's a thicker piece, it still means that I think I'll do an orange. It still means that you can end up with a little bit. Oh, thank you, Mary R, for giving me a Pacific Standard Time. Okay, we're right at the time that we should be ending for the 5:30. I kind of thought that we would be cutting it really close because this is so involved. So bear with me for just a little bit longer. I'm going to go ahead and color in my wisteria. And this little guy with a little bit of purple. If you will do the water on this instead of just pencils, you'll get a darker color. And you can take your brush and you can go through and you can actually just run your brush on your colored pencil if you didn't know that you could do that. I'm here to tell you that you can. You can literally just rub your brush on your colored pencils and you will get the colors that you need, and they will be the darkest at that point. And a little bit of yellow. So it seems and feels like it's a hodgepodge, guys. I'm telling you right now, I thought, oh, this is just going to end up being so ugly, and I don't want to put it in there like that. But it really does well when you put it on in the basket. And I definitely want that flower, and I think I'm going to color it the color of my bike seat. And I think in looking at this, and please bear with me because I made this card a while ago. So my memory is not so good on where and how I did with each piece. I'm going to go ahead and give this guy a little bit of an alcohol marker because I can, because we used our pink fresh. So that gives me the ability to blend my colored pencils and my alcohol markers, and they will go just perfectly without having any troubles together. Okay, so I'm going to glue this little rose right up here. And then I'm going to go through and with my, there we go. Going to go through and with my Hunky Dory foam squares, you're just going to go through and cut while it's still on the pad. Don't do it when it's off the paper. You will have a tough time with your scissors. But you can totally cut these up into smaller pieces if you use the backing for them. And keep in mind with these vents, and if you fill it out a little bit more, I was a little not so generous and cut out a couple of pieces that I probably should have kept in this one. But you can go through and you can take those vents and use your flower forming ball, and you will fill those right in, and it will give you a little bit more of a flower, I want to say element. That might not be exactly the word that I'm looking for, but it will give you that ability to have it pop out a little bit more. This is going to be a little bit more static because I didn't run the ball over it. Okay. And over here. I don't know about you guys, but it's very difficult sometimes when I don't have nails anymore and they break off because I do a lot of other work. So because of that, they're hard to get those little tiny papers off the back. So if anybody has a good recommendation or tip for that, that would be great. I would love it. Okay, so we're just going to talk about the balloons and what I did just because of our time. I'm going to take off first a slight amount here. Okay. That's what I'm looking for. And I don't know about you, but man, I am not an artist. I don't draw. I don't. Stephanie, thank you. I appreciate the compliment. And yeah, wouldn't it be fun to have a bike that looked like that? So, anyways, for me, not being an artist, not knowing how to draw, both of my children can draw. They both have that talent. My daughter especially can draw. My son originally was the person in the family that said that he was interested in drawing and started working on it. And then my daughter decided it looked like so much fun that she would try. And she kept going with it. And my son kind of quit. And so instead, he can draw, but it's not quite to the caliber that it could have been if he hadn't quit. But he has an excellent eye in photography and filming. And so he does a great job of some pictures that I think are just pretty amazing. And I can't take pictures either. So it's got to be that artist's eye compared to the other. Okay, so we're just going to do 2 balloons right now just to make it kind of simple. Boop, and one here. One right back there. And do what you will do is you'll place your balloons around, And then you have to kind of decide on where you want your lines to go. And I squiggled my lines because I feel like when you've got a bike and you've got balloons, they're going to wave in the background anyways. So you might as well give them that movement when you're drawing. But some of the hardest things that I had was, as well, how do I make this work between the different balloons so that each one gets a string. So you just have to remember that if I attach this one here, I still have this one back up in here. And so it goes back behind that balloon, of course, because it's a balloon. And then it's going to come out on the other end. So you definitely want to give each one its own individual line and think about where, if the balloon was really there and you had two balloons, think about where your lines would go. And when you're holding a balloon, it would be hidden by the balloon in front, but then it still would be seen in your hand, right? So that's how I decided. And these I went through, and I like saying what I did with these because it just goes to show you where you can use these things that you're learning to make with Debbie and all of her different little backyard backgrounds that she's been making. So these are the Jamie Sparkle acetate, and I just glued my mirror board right onto the acetate and then cut around them. And that made my balloon piece. So this is Jamie Rogers, and it's got various different things, and it's on the acetate because acetate makes it feel a little bit more see-through, in my opinion. And the other thing that you can do is you can do something along the lines of your Nuvo Drops. You can take and you can make your balloon. This is the one that isn't as see-through. And so you can take this and you can push your little balloon right over the top of it like that. And it glues it on because we know that that's kind of a paste anyways, right? And just leave it, let it dry, and you will have this great little balloon with your Nuvo Drops shining through. Isn't that pretty? Hi, Roberta. Yep, I am my camera person. Thank goodness Bryce was so kind as to come in and say, "Oh, it's okay. I can get you started." So that was very sweet of him. If you want a little bit more of a clear coat and you want to have that more of a pink color, then you can use the jewel one instead of the crystal Nuvo. And then when you're done, set it down in the paste, let it dry, and it doesn't look, boop, right over here. There we go. It doesn't look like much of a color. It looks like it might be see-through, like it will just be white, but I promise the color will be there, especially when you put it on the back of your item. See, it brought back that light little bit of pink. So let's set these aside, and thank you, Roberta. I appreciate that. I have been kind of MIA for the last while, huh? It feels that way. So it's nice to be able to feel like I'm back again. So leave them to dry, cut these out, and then you can just add, and in this particular case for me, I added 5 different balloons. So you can see how we did each of those right over here. So it really just depends on you. The black Sharpie pen makes a big difference on those wheels, doesn't it? And on the pedal. So definitely get out your Sharpie. It will work and it will stay because it's an alcohol marker. If you have black alcohol marker, that would work too. You can use alcohol markers on your acetate. I just only had my green alcohol markers out for the grass, and I don't have all the rest of them handy. But that's what we would do for these two. So we're pretty much all the way there. Do you want to go over what I did on using Nuvo uh, and how I did that to make this card? Or would you like for me to run it through with a Margie's Makes? It's totally your call because it's you guys that are here now versus not. And I actually just saved one little space for you, so I don't have to make the entire card. You can totally see what I'm doing by, I can just give a little quick example of what I'm talking about, and you can see for yourself what a difference it makes on the paper. What do you think? Do you want to see the trick, or do you want to save it and do it for later? You are welcome, Mary R. I really truly enjoy looking at things through different ways of doing things. I'm never somebody that likes to do the same thing again and again. So if I feel like I'm starting to feel like it's getting easy, then it's on to learn something new. And Debbie's always got something new for me to learn. So isn't that great? And I get the opportunity to play a lot. So she's had a lot of fun playing with the new gel presses, and she's really enjoyed that. And she liked the Jamie Sparkles as well a lot, with all the different things that you can do. So I love having that out there and being able to learn new things all the time. And then you just have to come back and use those at different points, right? Okay, I will show you what I did. Okay, so in the middle here, well, let's start with this because you guys can appreciate and laugh and have fun with me because, man, it was very frustrating. Okay, so I had an idea in mind. This was my one piece of paper that came out of my Peony Promises little book. So this is yeah, use the Nuvo with your stencils like the balloons. Absolutely. You can absolutely use your Nuvo in stencils. Great tip, Roberta. I appreciate that. I remember it sometimes and then I forget about it later. But this is one of our little papers. So they're wafer thin. They're soft. They have a nice shine and sheen to them, and they can handle a little bit of wet. You can't put like lots of wet on these, but they do hold up to a good amount. And so I decided, okay, I'm going to play. So I had this great idea. It's blank in the middle. My peony, my peony stamp came with these two really neat sayings on them. And because I've put them over here, I can't read them. So it's one of them says, begin each day with a grateful heart. And that's the one that I used. And the other one says, sending you happiness. And I thought, wow, wouldn't it be great to put on these? Now you could just directly put on your ink. Because of the glossy, I think that I would choose something like the Pink Fresh or choosing more of an alcohol-based item so that you can keep it really crisp due to the sheen. I'm not sure what this will do with the sheen to put on a watercolor base ink. I can definitely try it and get back to you on it, or if you guys want to test that theory, or if you guys have already tested that theory, that would be great to know. So with this, I used, I made the decision rather than using ink at all that I would use my embossing pad, and I used my Nuvo gold embossing powder, and look at how crisp and clean that came out. It is very easy to read. It just came in beautifully. I was so thrilled. Now you're going to notice, because I've brought this close up, this is what it looks like. Let me put this in the right space. This is what it looks like before Nuvo, and this is what it looks like after Nuvo. And it really picks up on the camera. You don't see it quite as much because there isn't as much reflection as the camera gives it, but look at how shiny and how three-dimensional it looks. And you can tell where I use my Nuvo drops compared to where I didn't, right? And like I said, we have tons of different types of Nuvo drops, and you would never think that you could do this straight onto something. So I'm going to show you really quickly here because I did it, and this is the part that you're going to laugh at, is my paper. So I tried doing the white resist on this one. See on that one how I did the resist in the middle for sending you happiness. I was trying to do it, and I ended up just using this as a try again. And I just didn't like the cleanliness of it, or lack thereof. It just was messier. And it wasn't a Nuvo embossing powder that I was using. I was trying the holographic, and I also used just the white and then tried to resist it. But I just didn't like the look. So it's always good, take one, use the paper again and again and again and again, and you can see that it absorbed. And one of these is alcohol, one of these is watercolor. So I actually have used watercolor on these. I kind of forgot about that. So on here, you can see the Nuvo drops, you would think. But as Debbie was watching what I was doing that night, she said, you know, they make something for doing this on your stuff. So I think you should try that and see what you think. It's the glue that you use on your pen drops when you're adding beads to your stick pins. It's not only a glue, but this is one type. And then there's another one as well. There's a 3D dimensional crystal, and you use those as glues for your stick pins. And that's what I thought they were for. I didn't realize that you could put them on your paper and it would do something like this. So that's this. And it's clear. It will dry just clear. But what I really like, and we tested it, and we thought, okay, let's see how different they look. And I'm trying to hold them up at the same level. I did not move them. I have it from here at this leaf down to here. So I just put it through here because there's nothing on this side. It is a little bit more expensive than the Nuvo drops, but it still goes pretty far. And so I just ran it over the leaves. So you can see the leaves, you can see the little bit of sparkle in it. It's flat. I can feel it on there, but it's not as pronounced feel wise, nor does it seem to give it the depth that the Nuvo drops did. So I'm showing you that because of the way that we thought that they would turn out similar. But if you use your jewels, it will show through and be shiny like this. If you use your jewel drops, it will have a very similar look to those. If you use your glitter, right in there is your glitter. These little leaves I use glitter on. And right in here where I did my little dots through, I did some of it in jewel and I did some of it in crystal. So I'm going to just go ahead and I'm going to show you on this because I hadn't done this yet. This one is just part of a rose that I cut out. It might have even been from one of these nope, not one of these. I think it's on the hot air balloon pad of peony pads. I I don't think that I have the pad out with me today, but oh, I did. The Peony little books have some little ones like that in it that you can choose from. Or you can take, if you wanted smaller flowers, you can take in one of your pads, you can go through and do this and use smaller flowers. So just cut away at these. Use these at how you want. So I cut mine out of, I think it's the hot air balloon page, and I got that little flower. I glued it onto cardstock so that it's nice and stiff, and then I've put my foam squares behind it, so it's given it a little bit of a different level than the rest of the card. I also, if I were doing this again, I would have put some gold mirror around the edges and then put it on the mirror board, but I didn't. So that's just the way it is now. And so let's just take a quick look and see what we end up with on this one right here. So on the paper itself, it is very purple in this leaf. So I went through and I took my purple and I just ran a little edge along. So it's kind of coloring with Nuvo. And I'm just putting it on any of the places that I see a little bit of purple. It doesn't have to be on everything. And in fact, you might think that I just kind of put it all over these flowers, but I didn't. I don't think that it will pick up here. It might, but do you see how some of it is shiny? Oh, that's a perfect example right there at the top. You can see where it's not really in there, all of it. You're just using little tiny amounts in each little section. So that was my glitter. All right, so now that's glitter purple. And then I just want a faint little bit of this green shining through. I don't want the green. I really like the little pieces of green in that section, and I want to keep them there. And so I don't want to accidentally cover over it with my pink. So I use my little green first. And then in these darker ones and these bigger ones, I am going to go ahead and use them on each one of the leaves. And it does not harm it at all to blend your purple with your green. In fact, I just run one right along next to the other one. And you're literally coloring with these. So can you see how that works? Roberta, I love this stamp too. And I have an idea at the end of this, and we'll talk about it a little bit because I have a great idea. Okay, so you can then add the jewel tones into here if you want to in the purple. You could do it with the glitter too, but this is going to be a little bit more subdued and it dries with the color behind it, so you can really see it. So the differences between your jewel drops and your glitter drops is that one has the translucent color in it, but then they've added some glitter and pieces to it too. And when it dries with some of the color, but it also dries with the glitter being seen through it. So that's that. And oh, I wish I can remember who asked and said Nuvo crystal. So these Nuvo crystals do not allow you to see behind them. Oh, see, I'm not even holding it up for you to see. Okay, these Nuvo ones are not something that they are thick. They are not translucent. You cannot see what's behind them. And so in this type of a space, I don't want to use much in the way of crystal. I would have put some of my pink crystal in here, but I left it at home. Unfortunately, I just was not thinking. So instead, I'm going to put it on here so that you guys can see it. This then becomes my test page because I really messed it up. So here, when I put on the crystal, and the vintage drops are the same way, and I think so are the dream drops, where they just aren't see-through. You're not really going to see unless you get them really thin. Coloring with my Nuvo. You can put a thinner layer, and then you can sort of kind of see through it, but not very much. And it will give you a very nice dimension, and you can really see it. So when you use that instead of the glitter drops or the jewel drops, you'll really see it. And here is a perfect example of where I would use it, because you might say, well, where would you use it if you're not going to color it here? You can use it for making your little dots on your page, because it's not see-through. Jewel drops, I found that if you make too big or too thick of a jewel drop, it will give you a little bit of a crackle at the underneath portion. It still stays hard and it's still nice and solidified, but you can see little fine cracks in it if you put it on white, for example. If you don't put it on white, then you're pretty good. But these crystal drops work great for making those dots. You won't see the cracking and glazing that happens against the paper like you would with the jewel drops. So here's an example of where I used my Nuvo crystal drops. And that is on my stamp. I went through and I stamped it with the black ink underneath. I used Pink Fresh because I knew that I was messing around with lots of different things when I did this. So right here is the black ink. And I covered absolutely everything that you see here. All the lines. So this does give off a lot of reflection. So I'm going to try and make it as seeable as possible. If you don't completely cover the black lines, then some of it will shine through. Like right through here, you can see little tiny bits of the black line. Let me see if I can bring it up a little bit closer. There. Right in the center, you can see some of my black lines. This is the one area that I did not do at all yet. But in this area right through here, I did do it, but I didn't put it on quite so heavy because I wanted to see if you can see through. And you really can't. It's just where I didn't make it as thick of a line. So thank you, Stephanie. Thank you, Mary R. Hopefully I've been able to give you enough of an explanation on Nuvo. I took the one last part to this is that I took the Nuvo crystal drops that I was using, and I actually just put some on my finger and I rubbed it in between on my watercolor paint that was in here, and man, it solidifies up that paper. It is just nice and strong now. Thank you, Stephanie. I appreciate it very much. I know that we are not having a class on Saturday. And oh, you're welcome, Mary G. We're not having class on Saturday, so our next class will be next Thursday. I do not know what is going to be on that next class. I don't know if that was something that Debbie covered last night or not. But if she hasn't, I am sure that when she comes back, she will have made her get her things for next week to be able to show you on What's New Wednesday, would be my guess. So thank you so much for joining me today. And I cannot say goodnight, Gracie, without getting up and walking over to the computer to turn everything off. But if you have any questions for me really quick, I'll be more than happy to do that. Thank you, Mary R, for the thumbs up. I appreciate it. And just let me know what if you have anything before I turn off. No, Roberta, I have not gotten an Emma package. I will save for her birthday. And I think that we are good. So I'm going to go ahead and turn off. Thank you, Roberta, for thinking of Emma. I really appreciate it. She thinks you're just great, and we've been going through those school workbooks like crazy for the summer. So we've done the photocopying so we can donate them to a local shelter like you had requested. So we've been doing that throughout, and she loves it. And I figured that I could just go through and do exactly what she requested, because I really like that idea. So thank you so much, Roberta. And I know that's a personal message to Roberta, but I know that we're signing all off. So thank you so very much. I will pet Teddy for you. I'm sure that he will love to have some attention. And have a great rest of your night, guys.